Welcome to the mad world of telly.
Thank you, Jeff. It's exciting to be here.
It is. Now, you've been in the chair 2 months. I've read that you have soaked yourself in the business. What have you learned and what do you think's your biggest challenge?
Well, I have. I've immersed myself in the business, and I think that's the right thing to do. It's my way of working. I've talked to a lot of people. And look, I'm under no illusion, and nobody at ITV is under any illusion, that we are quite a challenged business. We have got a journey to travel. And the biggest issue for us is that we still have substantially what I call a legacy model. We're a free-to-air broadcaster, we're beset by regulation, and the world of television is changing. And the way we all know from young people, from our sons and daughters, the way they watch television is going to be very, very different 3 to 5 years' time. They use the internet, they watch it interactively, and ITV has got to be at the forefront of those changes. At the moment, we're still at the starting gates.
Clearly, it's not been there in recent years. As well as all that business stuff, of course, you are looking after one of the nation's great cultural crown jewels, Coronation Street. I put it to you that you mess around with that at your peril.
Well, that is one of the great things ITV has. We can still, on Coronation Street, reach 9 million people every night. When we do Britain's Got Talent, we can be reaching 14 to 15 million people. When we do Piers Morgan and Gordon Brown, we can create a conversation for the country. So we still have that. We're the big flagship brand. We're part of the national conversation, and we have great talent. So there's a lot to play with at ITV, but the business has to change. There's now an imperative for change, and if we don't change, we won't be there in 5 years' time.
Now, what about this fella? I hope we've got him in the monitor coming up, Simon Cowell. Now, you've got to be pretty damn charming to him, have you not? Because the last time I looked, he's underpinning your bestsellers, X Factor, Britain's Got Talent. You can't lose him, can you? And he's not yet signed his contract.
He hasn't signed his contract.
He hasn't?
I've spoken to... It's not my job to negotiate with Simon, but I've spoken to him, and we're on very good terms. We've got a fabulous relationship. Remember that the partnership with Simon Cowell has created the X Factor in the UK and enabled him to take that brand to the States. And he wants to maintain the strength of the X Factor, Britain's Got Talent brand in the UK. We're the only channel, BBC apart, that can reach that mass audience, which is what he's after. And so we're very, very confident that we'll have a good working relationship with Simon for years to come.
I suppose...
Incidentally, he's starting to do the Britain's Got Talent show at the moment. So it's all go with Simon Cowell.
Well, you say that, but look back on your previous job, one of your previous jobs at Asda. You'd be pretty worried, wouldn't you, if you were at Asda and you had so much resting on one product, one supplier?
No, because we don't. I mean, Simon Cowell is important. The X Factor is a big hit last year. Had a fabulous programme, and the Susan Boyle thing really made Britain's Got Talent. Actually, the early stage Britain's Got Talent, it wasn't a very big programme. But it's become a very big programme. It's very much an ITV programme. It's very much a Simon Cowell brand, so we do value it. But we've got a lot else beside that. I mean, we're broadcasting the World Cup this year. We're broadcasting the first general election debate ever. Very exciting. Yeah. So I don't think we're dependent on Simon Cowell. And let's just remember, we don't own the Simon Cowell programmes. They're owned by Fremantle and his companies. So we don't own the rights, whether it's on the internet or to broadcast that brand or create that brand abroad. He owns them. And that means that we're in some ways less dependent on Simon Cowell because there are other programmes where we do own the rights and they can be a big part of our economics, not just in the UK but around the world.
But you're pretty confident he will sign the contract?
We're pretty confident, and all I can say is that there's a good relationship, discussions are continuing. Hopefully things will be sorted out in the next few weeks.
Now, one of the big jobs you had when you arrived was to find a new chief executive. And goodness knows this job has confounded many people. You've gone for Adam Crozier. It's a strange choice. No broadcasting experience, a mixed record at the Royal Mail. The trade unions loathe him. Why Adam Crozier?
Well, look, I don't actually think it is a strange choice. I've known Adam for some time. You'll know and you'll recall that last year ITV had a lot of trouble in its search for a chief executive and then a chairman.
It was an embarrassing debacle.
I appeared on the scene. The biggest surprise to me, I may say, as it was to ITV. Within 2 months, we'd solved the chief executive problem. Adam will arrive on April the 26th. He's a very experienced manager. He's a big change maker. He's worked in a regulated environment at the Royal Mail. He's worked with creative people. He was managing director of Saatchi & Saatchi, and a very successful one. So he's worked with creative, he knows the advertising market. In addition to that, he's worked in football, which, as you all know, is full of material and pretty difficult people. So, yeah, if you like, dealing with talent, with talented people, with creative people, with regulators and driving through change, that is meat and drink to Adam Crozier, and I'm sure he'll be a very, very strong leader for ITV.
Isn't something missing from the ITV board, though? You're not a broadcaster, he's not a broadcaster. I couldn't find any broadcaster on the ITV board. Isn't that a weak link?
Look, one thing we're not short of at ITV is broadcast talent. We've got in Peter Fincham and his team of commissioners, outstanding people with years and years of broadcast talent. The challenge for ITV is to change the shape and form of the business so we can compete on the new media, we can regenerate our content business, so we can have brilliant productions that we can screen on ITV, turn into great brands, and then broadcast around the world and market around the world. That is what we need to do. We need a leadership team that's going to help the creative talent we have and the broadcast talent go on that journey.
OK. Before we go through those bits and pieces, item by item, let me just ask you one other question about the board. ITV has always attracted disproportionately a high number of female viewers. That's been part of its strength. There's no woman on the board either.
Well, you're right, but you're wrong. There is at the moment. Baroness Prasher is on the board. She's also on the Iraq War Committee, so she's extremely tied up, and she's said to me, look, she wants to stand down. She's been there 5 years, that's fair enough. She's been fantastic for us. But it does mean that I've got at least one eye out.
So there's a job out there for a talented woman.
Yep, you know, all applications welcome.
Very nicely put. Now, they say that the BBC doesn't chase ratings, but I read today that it's going to invest a lot more money in Strictly Come Dancing with the deliberate intention of going up against you. An X Factor. Well, is that what you'd expect from the BBC?
It's absolutely what I expect from the BBC, because I don't know who told you that they don't chase ratings. The BBC,
Mark Thompson.
BBC absolutely chases ratings. They schedule their programmes to come up directly against us. That's exactly what they did with Strictly Come Dancing and the X Factor last autumn. They compete, they measure their success by the ratings they achieve, and the ratings can only be achieved against ITV. The BBC is, and they talk all the time about their requirement to have very large audiences, and that takes them absolutely into our territory. The BBC are our nearest competitor, and they're very powerful, very heavily funded competitor.
And will you be talking to the regulator about this?
We will be talking to the regulator. I've had a conversation with Michael Lyons about it.
The chairman.
We talked to the Secretary of State about it. I think it's a very, very serious problem for Britain that, policymakers and regulators in Britain have to decide whether we want a diverse, thriving, creative, independent, not taxpayer-funded creative sector, or whether we want BBC dominance. And if we do want BBC dominance, it means that the benefits people get from public service broadcasters such as ourselves, news, regional news, etc., simply won't be affordable anymore. And
what about this company, B Sky B? Still an important shareholder, 7.5%?
An important and a welcome shareholder.
A welcome shareholder?
Absolutely. I always welcome long-term, loyal and committed shareholders.
And that's how you see B Sky B?
And incidentally, I have a good relationship with, I'd like to think, with James Murdoch and Jeremy Darroch, the chief executive. We talked to them recently. We have a professional rivalry. That's absolutely right. We'll try and kill each other in the marketplace. But as a shareholder, a very welcome, good relationship. And there are many areas that we can work together.
What can you do about the fracturing of the television market and the boom of the internet? You said you've got to get to grips with it, but how? Because you can't turn the clock back.
Yeah, well, I think there's, in my mind, the three waves of fragmentation. We're largely through the first wave, which is a move from analogue to digital, which means that most households, whether it's Freeview or on Sky, are making a choice of 50 to 200 programmes. Largely through that. The next wave is video on demand. So in 3 years' time, most forecasters think about 13% of television viewers will be what they call VOD, video on demand. Large part of that on the internet. We need to be very effective in getting our share of that. We've got great content, but we need to attract people to view it through different platforms. And then as high-speed internet comes in subsequent to that, people will get very high-speed internet in large parts of Britain. that means that many more people are watching their television live on the internet. And that brings in another wave of fragmentation. That means for broadcasters like us, you've got to have not just brilliant product that people want to watch, but a great brand. So when they're choosing between 200 different options, they say, right, we're going to ITV.
Archie, I've got it. Before we go, I've got to ask you this. You said that you've soaked yourself in ITV. Who is your favourite Emmerdale star?
The one thing I don't do is get involved in selecting Emmerdale stars or Coronation stars or any other stars, because if I do, I've learnt enough to know that I'll end up in very deep water with all the rest.
Archie Norman, a great bluff. Well got out of that difficult question. Thanks for coming in.